Well, hello everybody. Welcome to a very special edition of Derp Your Hooves. So, today we are flying around in the F-117 stealth fighter. And we have a special treat for you today. So, I think I'll probably put it in the description, or maybe I'll mention it at some point. I don't know if you can figure out where we are. But we're in a very special place. Today, in the stealth fighter, we are going to leave this location and go to another. Now, I do want to say that the stealth fighter has definitely been at both of these locations. And you might say, well, what are they, Pony? Well, maybe we can play a game. Maybe I'll mention them in the sim. See if you can figure out where we're taking off and where we're going to. But I do have a very special flight for you. So, oh, and there's an F-117 right there. Someone landing, because I have live player mode. So, well, this is not the easiest plane to land. So let's get ready to begin our journey. Now, you might notice that, for example, the F-117 does have position lights and nav lights, and it does. It has them. It has them. Let's see, where are they in the sim? See, I can turn on my landing light. I can turn on my taxi light. I can turn on my anti-collision lights, and they'll blank. I mean, they all work. Alright, whoever designed this, put them in here. See, fuselage lights, so you have the... Now, every pony, one may ask, why was the F-117 stealth fighter painted black? Well, there's plenty of reasons why it was painted black. The paint actually is a radar absorbing and heat absorbing paint. It's a very special paint. But let's turn off all these lights, because that'll ruin the fun of today's flight. Let's make sure that all of our lights are off, and it doesn't matter if we have them on here. Let's see. I don't want the blinky light. I don't want the emblem lights. That's right, I want it just like that. So it is actually like a full moon tonight. And so we really don't need the moon. And technically we would say, well, wouldn't you want like a taxi light? Well, not today. So let's get underway and let's see if we can make this whole flight without crashing. Now, I actually have set up the stealth fighter so that the autopilot's engaged. Well, the autopilot will be engaged, and I did set it up in the map mode. So let's get this puppy rolling. Now, I mean, for someone to say that this is a true-to-life plane, like, is it a study-level stealth fighter? Well, I would say probably not. That would not be something that I would imagine that the United States Air Force would, you know, look very highly upon. And we're off, like a herd of ponies. Let's raise our gear. Have a look around. Such a nice starry night, wherever we are. Well, it would be unfair of me to not at least give you a little bit of a hint. See if you can figure it out. So, this is one of the oddest planes in the United States Air Force's inventory that we know of. Let's go ahead and look front again. You can say, well, gee, Pony, it's awfully dark in here. I'm afraid of the dark, Pony. Well, I mean, it's good because it comes with, like, you know, lights and all kinds of really cool stuff. Right? I mean, I have lights. And I do know what my flight plan is because it's right here. And I know what my altitude is, and I know what my speed is. Right? And I know what if I'm level or not. And again, I know in what direction I'm flying. So, there are some interesting features to this plane. Again, I don't know if you can buy it anywhere but the marketplace, and so let's just kind of leave the floodlights on for right now. Right? And you say, well, it's really, really dark, and this is really, really hard to see. But outside, it's not. Right? Well, actually, it is. It's just that it's pretty much a full moon, so you're right, it is a little dark. But we really don't need floodlights, like, at all, pretty much. We could turn them on, but we don't need them, because we have this. You'd say, well, what is this, Pony? Well, it may not be totally true to life, but let's see if you can guess. It's about as close as I can dial it in right now. So, the stealth fighter. What would one have to say about the stealth fighter in the amount of time that we have to do this flight today? Well, the stealth fighter, according to the United States Air Force fact sheet, is retired. So, according to what I had read, there are no longer any in service as of current date. So it's no longer in service with the United States Air Force, and they were the only branch of the service to fly it. It didn't go to the Navy, didn't go to the Marines. The Army never got a hold of it. This was strictly Air Force plane. So, what about the F-117? Well, I mean, it's no longer a top secret or a classified aircraft, right? Because there's no longer any in use. Let's just go ahead and turn on that floodlight just for a second. You say, oh, it's so bright, it hurts my eyes. Right, well, let's set a couple of switches here. Let's actually dim the night vision. And let's say I want the autopilot on. I want it on nav mode. I want it on channel 1. Maybe I want it on pitch mode. And did I turn all my computers on? I did not. And I didn't brighten up the HSI. And one may say, did you raise the gears? And I would say, well, I certainly think I did, because I can see it right there. And so you see how the anti-skid on, and you have like a primary and secondary brake system switch. Right now it's on normal. So, and there's actually something really cool about this, that there's a drag chute. And there's even a weapons base selector. So if I actually go outside, well, let's you know what, if you saw my last video, you would notice that, oh, there was an oopsie. And so, let's try not to do that again in the stealth fighter. And this will follow an autopilot mode. I mean, you can set the autopilot in the map. I am not sure if you can set the autopilot on the plane itself. I haven't really flown it that much. Couldn't beat the price, $20. Right? And when I bought it, like hotcakes with everybody else, it didn't have a rating. So we'll see what the rating is on it as we go. You'd say, well, gee, Pony, 285 knots just really isn't, you know, very high rate of speed. I agree. And we actually don't have to put it on pitch mode. We could put it on... Hold on. That's the one disadvantage of this. It's on nav mode. It's on pitch mode. We could just put it on altitude hold mode. And it should just hold at whatever my current altitude is. Right? We would think. Yeah, 26,620. And it's going to fly itself. So, what are some interesting fun facts that Pony knows about this plane? Okay, so what does Pony know about this plane? Well, first of all, I know that my weapons doors are open, and I wanted to show you something. So, I wanted to show you that, again, see, I said full moon, right? So when you buy a plane in the marketplace, and this is only one weapons door, but if I open them both, they're both going to be exactly the same. Right? You have right open, left open, right? Can you open both of them at the same time? You can close them. You can jettison whatever's in there. Bay door auto close, left, right, right open. So, right, I guess you can only open one door at a time. And there's trapdoor. See, it says door down. So if I go to right open because we were on the other one, it should open the other door, and you say, well, there's nothing there. Exactly, there's nothing there. And there wouldn't be in a plane that doesn't fly anymore. And see, there goes the door. And let's actually go back to seeing the ground, right? I mean, I could go to the outside of the plane. Why not? Let's go to the outside of the plane. That's always good. Let's see if we can get it where the moon catches it just right. Because everybody likes to see the outside of the plane. Oh, look, see the autopilot's kicking in, and there it goes, banking. Isn't that cool? Right? And really, it would be very hard to see this with your eyes, wouldn't it? Seeing as how it's black. And it's nighttime. And you may actually even have a hard time watching this video. But there's a point. We're going to keep this vision at night. You'd say, but you see, G-Pony, I can't see out the windshield. Okay. So let's put it back in night vision mode. And let's just let the plane fly itself and just kind of monitor the gauges at 371 knots and, 26,000 feet is fine. As we reach our destination. So this plane was actually, well, technically the first flight of this plane. As far as I know, I think it was 1977, but it wasn't called the Stealth Fighter. There was actually a prototype to it, Half Blue, which was technically the Stealth Fighter. It was technically the prototype to the Stealth Fighter, as far as we know. I guess we could dim it down a little bit. That's too bright. You're making me go blind. Okay, so let's just kind of put it in that night vision mode so you can't really make out the definition like that, but you can kind of see it. So Half Blue. So what was Half Blue? So Half Blue was, I guess it was the project name, the code name for the Stealth Fighter. Right? In the 70s. And you'd say, well, that's not true. Because it says it didn't fly until the 80s. Well, so, did it? I don't know. I'm not necessarily sure that I do know. Who does know? But technically, it said that it was actually flying in the 80s. And some of these planes have a tail marking of 84, which would mean that it was built in 1984. And you'd say, but that doesn't sound right either, because, this plane really didn't fly until the Gulf War, and, well, no, technically this plane saw service. It's just that people didn't know about it. That was the whole point of it. Isn't that wrong? I don't know what your stance on it is. I don't think it's wrong at all. It was was a plane that the public did not need to know about. And so you'd say, well, but it looks really weird. And so at one point, the United States military decided to declassify the plane to the public and let the public know about it. But there were people who did know about it. There were people who needed to know who knew about it. Right? And when you look at it, let's kill the night vision and zoom to the outside. When you look at it, and yes, it's really dark out, it looks strange. Right? I mean, but it's stealth, Pony. Right, it is stealth. This plane cannot fly on its own. It could never fly on its own. There was actually a series of computers. I think there was 3 or 4 or more. And without those computers, this plane would not fly. The pilot could not fly it without the flight guidance computers that were in it and the stabilizing, computers that were in it. It literally needed computers to fly because it is not aerodynamic. The other thing you might not know about it is that it was not a fighter. It was never built for air-to-air combat. It was strictly a bomber. It was a bomber. I believe that it could be equipped with cruise missiles, but it could be equipped with bombs. And you'd say, well, but then why call it a fighter? Well, that I don't have the answer to. I'm sure that we could read books and find out why. You could Google it. But even so, the Air Force released it as a fighter. Right? Well, this wasn't much of a dogfighter, right? I mean, it's really not a... It's like, well, look, I pretty much have the throttle pegged. And I'm doing 364 knots. This is a fighter? Of what time period? I mean, 364 knots, I mean, there's trainers that go this fast. It might even go faster. I mean, maybe you can get it up to 400 knots, so it can't even go supersonic. Well, do you really think that in the 70s, when there was the F-15, and the Navy had the F-14, and the F-4 Phantom was also in service, and these were all planes that could go supersonic. They could all go Mach 2, so why couldn't this go Mach 2? Well, I think it has something to do with the shape, and it has something to do with the fact that they didn't want it to have a high heat signature, and probably at that time they couldn't pump all this heat out through the afterburner and hide it from, say, infrared detectors and heat-seeking missiles. Right? So it's actually a very interesting plane, and I can't remember everything that I used to know about it because, I'm an aviation geek, right? I mean, I'm sure that I read up on this and did reports. This was the weirdest looking plane that anyone had ever seen. As a matter of fact, it's so weird looking that people might have even thought that it was a spaceship full of little green men. I've never seen any plane like that. I mean, I've seen what the military has, and this plane was shaped like a triangle. So it was shaped like a weird triangle. It's like a pyramid in the sky. I can't begin to explain what I saw, and I could barely see it, and it moved, and there was no lights on it, and it was like a shadow. So I'm pretty sure that people had seen this plane who lived in various parts of the world where it was, right? Like, I mean, it was definitely somewhere where there was not a high population at one point in the country, in the United States. And people saw it, but they didn't know what it was, right? So, is it a UFO? Is it a top secret plane? Who knows? But anyhow, we're talking about the F-117, and that's what I'm referring to. So the public did not know about this plane, and the people who did know about this plane, they weren't talking. They were sworn to secrecy. I mean, there were probably, serious penalties for talking about this project. You can actually read some very interesting books that are out about it. the Kelly Johnson from the Skunk Works when they invented this plane. There were other mystery planes and secret planes. It's just like the SR-71 flew and nobody really knew about it for a while. So this plane never went supersonic. It was not a fighter. It was a bomber. And if I didn't mention already, again, I think I said, and oof, that night vision, that'll blow your eyeballs out, won't it? Technically it will. If you don't put night vision goggles on your face and stare into bright lights, you will not like what happens. But it has this really weird shape. Right. So it has this really weird shape, again, if I didn't mention it before, because it has a low radar cross-section. It's very interesting. So some very smart people realized that this plane in this shape could evade radar. It had a very low radar cross-section. So sometimes it wouldn't show up on some radar systems, and sometimes it would show up like a bee. You know, what is that? Oh, it must be an insect. It must be a bird. You know, it couldn't be a plane. I don't know, something's wrong with the radar. So it worked, and it worked effectively. As a matter of fact, it worked so effectively, if anybody remembers the Gulf Wars, the like Desert Storm, Desert Shield, Desert Storm, this plane flew in and it bombed the crap out of Baghdad, and you know, I mean, it was an amazing plane. It was an amazing plane. It was built for pretty much one purpose and one purpose only, which was to fly in and infiltrate airspace and take out ground targets and leave without being shot down. And it did that very successfully. So the plane was actually out for a long time. But people were unaware of it, except for the pilots who flew it and the other people who were authorized to be around it. And, you know, like I said, you could actually read some very interesting, you could read some interesting literature. You could read a book called Skunk Works, where they discuss the stealth fighter. It's a little bit of an older book, but they discuss the stealth fighter, and it was actually in service when they published the book. Just some really interesting stuff about this plane. I mean, I gotta tell you. So only few people knew about it, right? And I from what I read, it's really interesting. Yeah. But again, you know, I'm gonna say again, and I'm not being endorsed by anybody. And no, it's not like I'm talking about anything that's top secret today. And if I did know something that was top secret today, I don't think that, you know, talking about it on YouTube would be a great idea, or public media. Probably wouldn't have good results. So you can get it again for Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 in the marketplace. It would be nice if they, you know, made it with some static weapons, but, you know, I mean, it's like I had said about the F-22, that, you know, I mean, you could just open the doors and you can look at the missiles and go, ooh, and, you know, you can't, you know, really use it as in a combat flight sim situation. Which, again, is fine because, you know, like I said, you can take off and land at any airport or runway in the world, you know, in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020, and you'd actually be surprised at what airports are included in the sim and what runways and airstrips are included in the sim. So, like, we just took off somewhere special, and we're going to be landing at a place that, and again, you can read up on this, that this plane was actually stationed at in a time period, and, you know, not much is known. I mean, not much was known about where it was, and you know, it wasn't something that was probably very talked about with people who served in the military during that time, especially people who served around this plane, or the pilots, and, you know, I mean, it's just, you know. So, but we did take off from one place, and we are landing at another place. You'll probably be able to figure out where we're landing. I don't know if you can figure out where we took off from. But I kind of did let you see the base that we took off from. So, but yeah, so it's actually flying to a base that apparently it was stationed out of for a while. You know, by a populated area. It's not like, you know, people didn't know. I'm sure people saw it there too. I'm sure that people thought it was a UFO. But probably when it was stationed where it was stationed, I mean, I don't know. I'm guessing that it was probably, when it was stationed where we're going, I'm pretty sure that it was probably more public knowledge at that time because it's such a populated area that we're flying into. But I mean, you look at it and, you know, you'd say it's a beautiful plane. I mean, honestly, it's kind of an ugly plane. Are we there yet? It's kind of an ugly plane. It's weird. It's a big triangle. It's just funky. Right? I mean, look at this thing. I think we passed the rest stop, boys and girls. Did we? Did we? Let's see, that's 160 out. It looks like it's still in front of us at 80. And it's still in front of us at 40. So I guess it's still in front of us. But we should probably start descending. Now, again, I cannot guarantee you. And I did apologize for the last flight, that I wasn't paying attention. I was so busy talking like I'm talking right now that I did miss. Well, we didn't get to land last time. And I really do apologize for that. That was not fair to everybody. But I'm going to try and land today. I mean, I really haven't flown this plane much. So I really can't guarantee you that I can land it. But I will try. So anyhow, let's get ourselves ready for landing. Why don't we do that? And let's maybe... we don't really need all of this stuff. I could leave them on, I guess, right? I mean, does it really matter? And I haven't figured out how to bind a function for that, but I probably should do this. And this is how I killed myself last time, right? Right, I think this is actually how Pony died in the last flight. So was it fair that Pony's kind of cheating? Define cheating. Because I wouldn't say that I'm cheating. So, again, I really have no idea, or do I, about how this plane actually flew. But I would imagine that, it doesn't fly how it flew in the sim. And I may be cheating just a little bit here, just so I know where I'm going. So, but am I cheating? Well, I don't know for sure. See if I can't slow her down a little bit. Nope. So, night vision, right? So that kind of like limits what I can do, but I do need to do something. So I have, let's do that. Any skid on is fine. But again, I mean, look at it. It's an ugly thing. But it's kind of beautiful in its own way. So let's kind of keep an eye on our speed, right? Perhaps on our heading and where we're going, and our surroundings. You're saying, well, gee, Pony, it's getting awfully bright. I know. It's getting awfully bright because we're using night vision over a populated area. And so everything's very bright. 12,000 feet. So this really was a very interesting plane. As a matter of fact, if I remember correctly, I'm not so sure how much it had to do with just this plane in particular, but I think it was Desert Storm was the first one. And you have to forgive me, there were a few wars with Iraq. I do believe, and if you've ever seen the footage, and I do remember watching the footage on TV, by the way, and you saw all of these tracers, and you saw all of these bullets firing up into the sky blindly, and they were just carpeting the sky with bullets, because these things had flown in and taken out all kinds of targets, and they were like, what the... And so, since you couldn't see your target, and since you had no way to shoot it down, I think that at that time Saddam Hussein was hoping, and his generals were hoping, that they would just get lucky, and that, maybe, one of those bullets would hit something, And so they just fired blindly up into the sky. So, I mean, again, you just... You just gotta love this plane. Hold on a second. I'm sorry, every pony, I'm being quiet because I'm trying to be stealthy. So we're bringing our airspeed down, and probably want to drop our gears soon. And that's going to create some drag. Definitely on this plane, it's going to create some major drag. So we're just going to come on in. And we're going to do our best not to stall it out. And I'm sorry if you're going to see this little white rectangle in the bottom corner, but I need the mouse there right now, because I haven't figured out how to bind that function any other way. So, and it's kind of a necessity. So let's just get this lined up with the runway. And kind of try and bring it in on a glide slope. And someone would say, well, I mean, but you're not using the ILS right, and you're not... Well, I mean, this is Derp your Hooves. And if I wanted to do it the right way, then I'd do it the right way. But we're doing this the derpy pony plane way. It even says Colonel Derpy with my my call sign on the side of the plane. So here we go. There's the runway. And let's bring her in without ending the flight prematurely. Try and line her up. You're saying, well, gee, Pony, you're coming in awfully fast. Well, at some point I'm going to figure out what the speed is of this plane. But if you're not careful with this little plane, you will do something that you don't want to do. Power, because we're bouncing. See, Pony just bounced the stealth fighter. You say, well, that's not good. No, it's not. So, don't know if I damaged it with that little itty-bitty bounce. And you'd say, well, what did Pony do? Will it show it? I guess it won't. That's a bummer. Pony did something. Let's see if I can make the sim show it again. Oh, I can't. It's a bummer. What if I kill the night vision? Will it come back? No, it won't. Well, there's actually a drag chute. See, that's what I was doing. This plane actually needs a drag chute to land. So that's what the whole handle thing was, and I haven't figured out how to bind a key to it. And so we're just going to take our little stealth fighter bomber. No, Pony. There's the B-2. And there's the B-1B. Well, the B-1B is not the stealth fighter or the stealth bomber. But the B-2 is. The B-2 is technically classified as a bomber, yes. Yes, it is. And that's actually currently in service with the United States Air Force. But this was classified as a fighter. Now, again, like I said, I would have to read up more on it and see what may have been released on it lately. Or since I first read some of the other literature about this plane many years ago. When, you know, we all were like, wow, look at this thing. Giant flying triangle. But guess I'd have to read on why that is. And again, I welcome, you know, information in the comment section of the video. If you know the answer and you'd like to post it, you're more than welcome to post it. I'd love to know why it was called the Stealth Fighter. Because from everything that I had read about it, it was not a fighter. See, isn't this interesting? And here we are, and you're saying, well, gee, you're going awfully slow. I am going awfully slow. I am taxiing incredibly slow. Because I don't want to taxi at 30 knots at a fast taxi down the taxiway in a tricycle landing gear airplane. That looks pretty unstable and high off the ground to me. In the dark, where I can't see anything. If I turn off the night vision, that's really hard to see. So, and again, you know, I did say with a disclaimer that, you know, this is night vision as tuned as I could tune it to night vision. So it may not necessarily be actual military night vision, and it definitely doesn't have the sphere, right? Like night vision goggles, right? I mean, because everybody knows, you know, that the Army flies planes with night vision. And we've all seen the monocle, so we know there'd be a big circle. Well, who knows what there'd be? You'd have to ask military pilots who fly with night vision. And if they would love to comment in the comment section and tell us all about what the United States military currently uses for night vision and how it works, I would recommend not doing that. So I'm going to highly discourage stuff like that. But I mean, again, if there's anything about this plane that you know and you'd love to share with us on Derp Your Hooves, you're more than welcome to put it in there. Because I'm sure that all kinds of things can be said, and all kinds of people have information. Well, I'm sure that people have all kinds of information about this plane that they can now talk about. Now, you're going to have to forgive me, but I guess maybe I'm kind of making it a little obvious where we are with our destination, and I'm not necessarily going to zoom out. If you didn't catch it from the air, you can rewind the video. And I wouldn't want to waffle. You know, I wouldn't want to put too much waffle into my video. Because I aim not to bore you guys. So, I mean, you could always go back and you could rewind it, or you could look around here. I'll look to my left and I'll look to my right, and you can say, well, I wonder where Pony is. Now, I'll tell you what. If you really want, and you can figure out where I am, where I took off from, and where I am, and you want to put it in the comments, I will give you a free Derp Your Hooves sticker. Vinyl sticker. Pony promise. I would be more than happy to send you a Derp Your Hooves sticker. If you'd like one. But you have to guess correctly. And I will open it up to the first 10 responses that get it right. So 10 people can get it right. Then 10 people can receive a really cool Derp Your Hooves sticker. I'll just give them out to you. And I mean, they do actually have a value of $5 each. But I will just give them to you. So we're actually going to pull up by these guys. We're going to ignore the taxi lines today. We're going to say, hey guys, I'm going to hit you with the wing. You guys are all just kind of congregating here. We're just going to stay off of taxi lines because I want to get right in the light. Because I want to show you this beautiful plane. So yes, the first 10 people to get the first 10 people to get the departure airport and the arrival airport, bases airport, whatever they may be, correct, will receive a Derp Your Hooves sticker. And I will mail it out to you, and I will pay for the postage. Totally free. Get a nice Derp Your Hooves vinyl sticker, and it looks just like the Derp Your Hooves logo. Well, it's the Derp Your Hooves logo. You can put it on your car, you could put it on your notebook, you can put it on whatever you like. You could savor it. So, why did Pony park under the light? Well, Pony parked under the light because he wanted to show you the awesome Derp Your Hooves paint job on this F-117. Right? Look at that. It says Derp Your Hooves. But isn't it an Air Force paint job? Part of it is. And there's actually something really special about this. I actually did something with this paint job, and you really can't see it in the light. You can see, if you really read on my canopy, you can see the pilot name. Maybe you can see what it says in the pilot name. But you can't see the crew chief on the other side, and that's unfortunate. But there you go. That's the F-117 Nighthawk, right? AKA the stealth fighter. So let's go ahead and let's open this puppy up. And let's open the canopy. Alright, and let's call this a day. Maybe we can see the crew chief name on the side of the anti-ice, pit-out heat. It's been on, we could turn it off, we don't need it on now. There's windshield de-ice. There's no ladder on this, like in the SC Designs planes. Or if there is, I can't find the switch. Well, so here we are, we're on the ground, right? And I'm just going to leave the fuel running, and hopefully they're going to come get me out of the plane. And can we see the crew chief name? No, we cannot. Well, anyhow, this is a very special livery. So, and I will actually probably mention it in the comment section of the video. But there you go. The F-117 Nighthawk. We flew it the whole way with the lights off. And just so you know, the night vision doesn't come with the plane. But if you do want to learn about how to use the night vision in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 or how to add it to your PC, feel free to look through my videos, and there may even be a tutorial video on there. So I want to say, brand new F-117 Nighthawk, aka Stealth Fighter. You can get it in the marketplace, and you can also get it on an Xbox, but you can't get these liveries, and there's no night vision that I know of on the Xbox, but you can still fly this plane. So here we are, every pony. I'd like to say thank you for watching Derp Your Hooves, and I look forward to seeing you guys in the skies.